Welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us for another episode of In the Jumpseat. Today we're diving into a topic that's incredibly important as we continue to move through the bargaining process. This is job action, what it means, how it works, and what role members play in all of it. We know there are a lot of questions right now. People hear terms like strike vote, lockout, work to rule, or strike pay, and for many members, this may be the first time they really had to think about what those things actually mean. So the goal today is to have a straightforward conversation that breaks this down in a way that's easy to understand. And joining me today, as always, is our local president, Alia Hussain. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Cameron. I'm glad we're having this conversation because there's a lot of information out there, and sometimes people hear labor relations terminology without anyone explaining it to them in plain language. One of the most important things members can do right now is stay informed and engaged. When people understand the process, it helps reduce uncertainty and makes it clear and easy for everyone to move forward together with confidence.
Now, before we dive into this discussion, we want to clarify from the start that we are not currently in a job action position, and the goal is to reach a deal at the table. The bargaining committee is committed to staying at the table and to get a deal that reflects the value of the work we complete every day. Members must know that they cannot engage in their own job action, and the union will clearly communicate should this become a reality. Now that we've gotten the disclaimer out of the way, let's start with probably the biggest question. What exactly is job action? Because I think sometimes people hear that term and immediately assume that it only means a strike.
That's very common, and it's actually a really important misconception to clear up. Job action is really an umbrella term for different activities workers or the employer can take during bargaining when negotiations are not progressing. A full strike or work stoppage is one of the examples, but it's far from the only one. Job action can include things like work to rule campaigns, refusing voluntary duties, visible action demonstration, rotating action, or a full withdrawal of labor. Different strategies can be used depending on what's happening at the bargaining table and what the union is trying to accomplish.
And I think that's important for members to understand that job action isn't just random or emotional. It's, at the end of the day, it's really strategic.
Exactly. These actions are coordinated very carefully. The goal is not disruption for the sake of disruption. And I think we can all agree that we do not want to harm our guests or the business. The goal here is to create pressure that helps us move bargaining towards a fair agreement. A lot of planning goes into each of these decisions. Timing matters, participation matters, and strategy matters. That's why communication and unity becomes so important throughout the process.
Another thing members ask all the time is how do we even get to that point? Because it's not like just one day everyone decides to walk out. This is all regulated by the Canada Labour Code.
Not at all. There's actually a very structured legal process that has to happen before any legal job action can actually take place.
So to quickly recap from our last episode, we have issued notice of dispute for WestJet Mainline and been assigned our conciliators. This comes after more than 7 months of bargaining with WestJet and not necessarily seeing the outcomes that the membership expects at this point. In conciliation, we are requesting the assistance of a neutral third-party conciliator to help both sides come closer to reaching a deal. This is not to be confused with arbitration, where an arbitrator gets to come in and decide the outcomes.
Exactly. After that, there's a 21-day cooling off period required under labor legislation. At any point, the union can go to the membership for a job action vote if necessary. Should this happen, it's integral that members participate as to apply the appropriate pressure. We need high engagement and high participation. Within the last 72 hours of the cooling off period, the union can give a strike notice or the company can issue a lockout notice. Only after all those legal steps are completed can either side legally take job action.
So there are multiple opportunities built into the process to try and get a deal done before things have to escalate to this point.
Exactly, and that's intentional. The system is designed to encourage settlements and continued dialogue. Sometimes people hear conversations about strike votes or mobilization and assume negotiations have failed completely, but that's not necessarily true. There are things that can happen while bargaining is still ongoing. In fact, increased member engagement is exactly what helps move negotiations forward. The company is monitoring our engagement, our participation, and unity very closely. If they feel we are divided, it will directly impact the pressure at the table.
So let's take a moment and talk about the difference between a strike and a lockout, because those terms are often used together, but they're actually very different.
They are. A strike is initiated by the union. Members collectively decide to withdraw their labor in order to apply pressure during bargaining. A lockout is initiated by the employer. That's when the company prevents employees from working during a labor dispute. On the surface, they can look similar because in both situations, work stops. But the key difference is who initiated it and why.
One question I've heard from members before is why would the company choose to lock workers out?
Cameron, there can be several reasons. Sometimes employers want to control the timing of work stoppage. Sometimes it's used as a bargaining tactic to apply pressure or create urgency. It's important for our membership to understand that a lockout does not mean workers did something wrong. It is one of the legal tools that's available to employers during collective bargaining, just like strikes are tools available to unions.
Now let's move into strike votes, because this is probably one of the most misunderstood parts of the process. When members hear a strike vote, a lot of people immediately think that means a strike is definitely happening.
And that is one of the biggest misconceptions we hear. A strike vote is not the same thing as a strike. A strike vote is a democratic process where members decide whether they want to give the union a mandate to take job action if necessary. What it really does is demonstrates unity and support of the bargaining process. In many cases, the strongest strike votes actually help avoid strikes altogether because they show the employer that the members are united and serious.
So really, the purpose is going to be leverage at the bargaining table.
Exactly. Employers pay attention to participation and engagement. A strong mandate tells them that members are informed, connected, and prepared to support the bargaining process if needed. And historically, strong unity often helps move negotiations towards a settlement because both sides recognize the seriousness of the situation.
Another question members naturally have is about strike pay. People want to know what supports exists if job action ever does become necessary.
Strike pay is a financial support provided by the national union during a legal strike or lockout. It's intended to help offset the financial impact experienced by members during a work stoppage. Now, it's important to set realistic expectations. Strike pay is not intended to fully replace someone's income. It's support designed to help members through the process while collective pressure is being applied.
Members can go to our Bargaining HQ website, where we have released more information on the specific requirements surrounding strike pay. This includes information like how much it is, required activities for members to participate to earn that strike pay, and more general information. Members are encouraged to visit our website. However, some of the key points here is that CUPE National pays $70 per day, and the airline division pays $30 per day. Members are required to complete picketing activities for 4 hours per day to earn this pay, and more information will be shared should we come closer to engaging in job action. Preparation and planning are important conversations too.
Absolutely. Part of being informed is understanding both the purpose of job action and the realities of what come with it. That's why unions encourage members to stay engaged early and pay attention to communications throughout the bargaining preparation. Preparation reduces uncertainty, and informed members are always in a stronger position than uninformed members are.
All right, so this next part is really important. What do members need to understand about participating in job action?
The biggest thing is members should never participate in job action unless they are officially directed to do so by the union. That's extremely important because job action has to be coordinated and strategic. Independent actions or unofficial actions can create legal issues, weaken the bargaining strategy, and potentially put members at risk.
So even though some members might be eager to act or frustrated, the coordination of the entire membership really matters.
Exactly. Collective action only works when it's unified and organized. Timing matters just as much as participation matters. If any action is required, members will receive very clear communication and instructions from the union. Nobody is expected to figure this out on their own.
So another common question is, can members that are junior or still on probation participate? And the simple answer to this is yes. As a unionized employee, the company cannot discipline you for participating in your union. Things like wearing your union pin is protected in the collective agreement, or showing up to an organized picket line is all protected under the Canada Labour Code. To clarify again and make it clear, we're not initiating any job action right now, and members should not participate in coordinated job action until explicitly directed by the union. So can we talk a little bit more about what job action can actually look like in practice?
Definitely. The most obvious example is a full strike, where employees collectively stop working. But there are many other forms of action too. There are work to rule campaigns, which are common, where employees do exactly what is required in the collective agreement or policies. Nothing more, nothing less. Then there can also be visible campaigns, coordinated demonstrations, refusal of voluntary overtime or extensions, or targeted actions designed to apply pressure in specific operational areas.
And I think that's something people sometimes overlook, that a lot of workplaces function because employees consistently are going above and beyond to pick up that overtime or those voluntary extensions.
Exactly. In many workplaces, voluntary efforts keep operations running smoothly. Work to rule campaigns can highlight just how much extra unpaid or extra labor employees routinely contribute. That's one of the reasons why solidarity and participation becomes so powerful in bargaining.
All right, let's shift into member engagement because this really is the foundation underneath all of this. Why does engagement matter so much during bargaining?
Because unity creates leverage. In the last 7 months, the bargaining committee has been at the table to apply pressure on the company. However, we've reached a critical junction in the process. The employer pays attention to the participation levels, turnout, visibility, and overall engagement from the members. When members are active, informed, it strengthens the union's credibility at the bargaining table. It shows that people are paying attention and that we are standing together. Engagement also helps build momentum internally. Members who feel informed and connected are more confident and prepared for whatever comes next.
And engagement doesn't always have to mean major actions either.
No, not at all. Some of the most effective forms of unity are simple and consistent. That can include wearing a union pin, a lanyard, sharing union social media, reading union updates, attending meetings or town halls, talking with coworkers, participating in surveys or votes, or simply staying connected to communications. These actions might seem small individually, but collectively they send a very visible and strong message.
And we can't reiterate that visibility matters so much.
It absolutely does. Visibility, unity reminds members that they are not alone, and it is also signals to the employer that the membership is engaged and unified.
One thing we also want to mention is that as bargaining gets more attention, members should be aware of the various company tactics and the validity of certain media sources. We see it daily where headlines may be skewed or provide misleading information. And members are reminded to turn to official union communication channels such as their email or our website, or to reach out to their elected representatives if they are seeing or hearing various rumors. So as we wrap up here, what should members expect moving forwards?
Members should expect continued communication and more opportunities to engage. As bargaining progresses, there may be mobilization activities, meetings, visibility initiatives, or other ways for members to participate and support the process. But the most important thing right now is to stay informed, stay connected, and paying attention to official union communications.
Any final thoughts for us, Alia?
I'd just like to say this: bargaining works best when members understand the process and support one another through it. Job action is not the goal. The goal is always a fair collective agreement, but unity, preparation, and engagement are what give members strength throughout the process.
Well said. Thanks, Alia. And thanks to everyone for listening. Stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll continue sharing updates and information as things move forward. And as always, thanks everyone for joining us in the Jump Seat.